Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Crypto and the Caribbean, the show where we cover all things crypto and Caribbean related. I'm your host, L, and for today's episode, it's actually going to be shorter if you haven't noticed, because it's going to be a two-parter. So this is going to be the first part of a series where I dive deep into a stablecoin project that recently came to my attention. I know we just came off the Haitian dollar. If you haven't, make sure you check out the Haitian dollar deep dive, as well as the interview with Mr. Hudson Luma, the founder of the Haitian dollar, that we have previously on the channel. But this one recently came up, and I'm not going to get too much into it right now. Let's just jump straight into today's episode for the CaribDollar. So, right out the gate, this episode is going to be shorter than most of my regular episodes, primarily because this week I didn't have as much time as I normally would put into actually diving into the project to get a good understanding of it, to break it down for you guys. So I don't want to just be on here reading the white paper, right? I want to at least be able to share some of my thoughts and some of my views on why I view certain projects the way I do and what I could potentially see coming from these projects. So for today's episode, we're just going to be brushing over the surface just to get a feel for what CaribDollar is, how it's supposed to work, who's behind it, and just in general what's going on. Because they are actually planning on launching in 2 countries by the end of this year. So let's just jump straight into it. So the first article we have here from Barbados today. So for each of these, the 2 countries mentioned, the 2 countries that I referenced earlier are Barbados and Jamaica. So what I did was I tried to find at least a local source of information to see what their opinions of the project looked like right out the gate. So the first one we have here is from Marlon Madden, June 4, 2022, so earlier this month. Digital currency coming for Barbados, rest of the region, talking about the Carib coin project. Now out the gate, it says here, Barbados will be one of the first 2 Caribbean countries in which a digital currency is to be rolled out. Could have worded that a little bit. I see what he's trying to say, but it's not going to be one of the first 2, since we already kind of have digital currencies. Even before the sand dollar, there was Dcash. The sand dollar, I guess, rolled out first. Anyway, semantics, you get what he's trying to say. For this specific project, it's going to be one of the first 2 Caribbean countries. That's what he meant. Officials say this digital currency will help to foster economic development and propel the Caribbean community, or CARICOM, single market and economy, CSME, while enhancing financial inclusion in the region. Now, to fully assess the project, you have to understand the settings, the community, the environment that it's being developed within. So, first up, we have CARICOM, essentially the Caribbean community. So, think about the EU, right? There's multiple European countries, and they're all a part of this one group that has unified goals and directives in all of their best interests in general. This is kind of that, where it's a group of different Caribbean countries coming together to collectively make decisions in all of their best interests. So I even have it pulled up here real quick, just going over the gist of it. The Caribbean community is a grouping of 20 countries, 15 member states, and 5 associate members, right? Those members over here, you can see Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, blah, blah, you see the list. So these are all of the different Caribbean countries directly involved or directly tied to CARICOM, this broad umbrella term. So boom, that's CARICOM. Next thing we have to take note of is this one here, the CSME. So this one is Caribbean Single Market and Economy. So we'll jump over here real quick to Investopedia, right? Caribbean Single Market and Economy. Caribbean Single Market and Economy is an initiative of the Caribbean Community and Common Market, CARICOM, that would integrate member states into a single economic unit. The end result would be the free movement of capital, services, technology, and skilled professions within the region. The broader goal of the Caribbean economic unification would be to help member economies, many of which are small and still developing, compete with larger rivals in the global market. So it's essentially one of CARICOM's, I would assume, primary initiatives. All right, so that's CARICOM and CSME. Keep those in mind because it's going to be important for understanding the thought process behind the CaribDollar project. So it says here, Dr. Jan Schroeder, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, that happens from time to time. One of the principles behind the proposed digital currency, CaribDollar, said a lot of work has already gone into planning and a white paper had been developed. Now, important part here. Well, most of it so far has been important, but this is what really caught my attention. So, started last year, the CaribCoin project, as it's being referred to, is a joint venture between Schroeder, the chief system architect, and the Caribbean-based technology accelerator Abed Ventures. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it should. That's Gabriel Abed, as in Sir Bit, Sir Gabriel Abed, Mr. Barbados, Mr. Digital Barbados. So right out the gate, this project is being backed by easily one of the most influential Caribbean people in the crypto and blockchain space right now. So that in itself is big. Coming down a bit more, Schroeder informed the webinar that CaribDollar would first be rolled out in Barbados and Jamaica, and then other Caribbean countries. So Barbados, you already know what time it is. That's home turf, first of all, for Abed Ventures. Second of all, Prime Minister Mia Mottley. Third, it's Barbados. It's a given at this point. And then Jamaica, we're still giving it some time to see how the whole Jamdex thing is playing out. But Jamaica being one of the premier sites for this too is pretty big, and it shows that they're genuinely trying. They're really trying to break into this. They're really trying to break ground and make some significant progress in this new digital assets future. So, pointing to some of the benefits of digital currency, Schroeder said it allowed for faster transaction and was more accessible, safe, sustainable, and stable. Now, he's quoted here, there's an opportunity using digital money. Let's think about creating pan-Caribbean digital money. So, if you want to buy pineapples as a grocer in Barbados from Jamaica, you just use this currency. You don't have to exchange to US dollar from the Barbadian dollar and then back to the Jamaican dollar. Just use this one digital money across the Caribbean. It would deliver seamless, faster, and cheap payments, provide liquidity, and enable fast track towards CSME without a need to replace national currencies, which really is a hassle if you want to go that way. So he brought up great points here with this quote. Because as it currently stands, with a lot of international business and especially cross-border payments, having to change your currency to another currency just to get it to the original currency that you wanted to begin with, and then all of the charges associated with each one of those is a hassle. It's a hassle across the board. Now, in a lot of first world countries, you don't really experience this kind of thing because in most cases, especially here in the US, you have the global reserve currency. So what you're using is that currency that people normally have to buy to get the other currencies. So in larger, more developed first world countries, you don't really hear much about these kinds of problems because it's not really a problem. Your currency is strong enough to stand on its own, so you can buy, in most cases, whatever it is you need to buy. But in these smaller countries and these developing countries, that becomes an issue. And you can imagine when it goes to businesses, corporations, or just larger entities that have to deal with either large sums or large volumes of transactions, and every single time you have to pay 2, 3, 4, 5 additional fees just to get the payment across. It's a nightmare. It's a hassle. So right out the gate, this is a very powerful pain point that they're hitting. Let's jump back to the article. He explained that while the digital currency would be based on good faith like that of the fiat currency, its stability would also be backed by a basket of Caribbean digitized financial assets and commodities, and would be governed and pegged as defined by Caribbean public and private stakeholders. He says here we propose using distributive ledger technology for a sense of safety. We're not just talking, we're building it. June 17th, we will have a workshop with businesses to design the trade finance applications for this. This year, side note, I was actually able to attend that workshop and it was quite insightful. I'll get to that in a sec too, but let's finish this up first. This year we will create an MVP, or minimum variable product. I thought it was minimum viable product. Anyway, we'll create an MVP with these solutions for trade, finance, and launch within 2 countries, Barbados and Jamaica, within 6 months from now. This is our plan to set this up. Big claims, these big claims, which if they could pull off would be some big moves. Schroeder gave the assurance that officials associated with the project will look at the possibility of having the CaribDollar work offline in the case of power outages, as he also assured that it will be safe against cyber attacks. He's quoted here, "We still have to set up the business plan. We're just in the phase of setting up a product and doing product market fit at the time." Adding that a part of the idea was to reduce the cost for regional trade. And then he wraps up here, "It would start with businesses before a trickle down, with the possibility of having salaries being paid using that digital currency." Okay, so just quick thoughts circling back to it. Based on good faith, just like fiat, but stability would be backed by a basket of Caribbean digitized financial assets and commodities. So it's kind of an algorithmic stablecoin in a sense, because it's still backed, but I'm assuming it'll be balanced in some way. I'm definitely going to dig into this some more. I know it's very shallow. I'm going to dig into it some more in the part 2 for this episode, but that's interesting. We propose using distributive ledger technology, DLT, the fancy synonym for blockchain. Create a minimum viable product with these solutions for trade finance and launch within 2 countries in 6 months. So in 6 months, that's by the end of 2022. So by the end of 2022, they're projecting to have a product. They're projecting to have something actually functional and deployed within both Jamaica and Barbados. That's huge. Let's look at this next article quick. Now this one from the Jamaica Observer, like I said, Barbados, Jamaica, makes sense to me. CaribDollar coming. So it says Jamaica and Barbados will in the next 6 months become the first 2 territories to access a new pan-Caribbean digital payment settlement system called CaribDollar. That's kind of cool too. I like this. Carib and then the dollar sign. I like that. CaribDollar, stablecoin or kind of cryptocurrency, is being developed by partners Abbott Ventures Inc. out of Barbados and German entrepreneur Dr. Jan Schroeder. Addressing a virtual conference hosted by the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, or CTU, Schroeder, chief system architect at CaribCoin Inc., said that while there were already CBDCs, the regional stablecoin that is currently being developed has the potential to transform trade and the wider Caribbean business landscape. So I think here we're referencing some of the other CBDCs in the wild right now. There's the Dcash one from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. There's SandDollar, of course, from the Bahamas. Jamdex in Jamaica. So these things out here in the wild, they're out. But he's saying this is going to be a bit different, especially seeing as it's not going to be a CBDC. It seems like it's just a straight stable coin. He indicated that a stablecoin similar to the cryptocurrency can have its value pegged against legal tenders like the US dollar and other commodities such as gold and petroleum. So there's going to be a spread. It's going to be a spread. CaribDollar, he therefore said, will be backed by Caribbean assets and will enable the settlement of accounts between traders or vendors doing business in different Caribbean territories cross-border in the legal tender of each party's country of origin without the use of intermediaries such as banks, using an online platform to transform the other. So the same thing, the having to pay to get a different currency, to get another currency, to get the currency you actually wanted to begin with, and all the fees tied to that. It's the same thing. The digital payment system will also provide a solution for the unbanked and will also allow small traders and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises to make payments seamlessly and instantaneously and through safe and private channels. Okay, what kind of privacy are we talking about here? Because I'm kind of interested. Speaking at the recently held event, Trinidad and Tobago-based economist Marla Ducaran, please forgive me if I mispronounce your name, said that the region is in need of innovative solutions to meet the need of the poor and those operating in the informal economy. She's quoted here, "With no robust and efficient trade settlement system for such categories of business, digital currency provides a viable alternative. Digital currencies also provide additional options for the poor in the region who depend on remittances to survive, since the cost of transfer using traditional means varies between 3 to 25% of the value of the funds being transferred." Those are the kinds of fees I'm talking about that you don't have to worry about when you have the global reserve currency, or you're a large enough country or a large enough sovereign entity to where you have your own currency that can stand on its own. These are the kinds of things you don't have to worry about, but many other countries do. 3 to 25%? But so coming down a bit more. So, sharing on the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States experience with digital currency. These are the issuers of the Dcash. Sharman Powell, chair of the fintech group of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, said that the rollout of its Dcash digital currency has been solving some recurring issues in the financial system, including the high cost of payment methods and banking services, the inadequacy of banking services in addressing the needs of the unbanked customers, and other efficiencies in the financial management systems. The CaribDollar project was developed late last year and is expected to be rolled out, blah, blah, blah. We got that. The pineapples example, we got that. Just use this one digital money across the Caribbean. It will deliver seamless, faster, and cheap payments, provide liquidity, and enable fast track towards CSME without a need to replace national currencies. We still have to set up the business plan. We are, however, in the phase of product, mid, market, blah, 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 blah. So we went over all of that. Okay, cool. So right out the gate, the premise makes a lot of sense. So as opposed to the CBDC projects that we've been seeing where it's localized to just that country, the Sand Dollars for the Bahamas, Jamdex for Jamaica, Dcash is for the independent nations that use the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. This one is more so meant to be more ubiquitous. It's meant to spread and apply to the entire region. In a sense, I don't know if it's meant for the entire region or just the CARICOM members, but it's covering a significantly wider net than these individual CBDC projects we had. I mean, that's the benefit of it just being a stable coin, just being a separate entity from any central bank in itself. Now, it is still centralized to a degree, but what kind of centralization will we have here? Because for this to even be allowed, there has to be some oversight or some unified governance, which it would only make sense would come from CARICOM, the group or the group of people or member states that are directly being affected by it. So how that looks, I'm definitely interested to see. Now, earlier I had mentioned that I was able to attend Dr. Schroeder's workshop where he sat down with different businesses and fleshed out some of their needs, their pain points, what they currently use and things of that nature. It's pulled up right here. So it was very straightforward, very well organized, and it really, I wouldn't say it shocked me, but it was really refreshing to see that the group or the people behind this project are so open to direct criticism. They're open to outside ideas, and they're open to any presented data and information that they could actually use to make this a better product. So you see right here, goals for the day. Kick off to build a collaborating community for the introduction of CaribDollar. Identify most urgent businesses' needs for the setup of the MVP for Pan-Caribbean payments. On the agenda was a short introduction to CaribDollar with a direct Q&A. You could ask any question you wanted. Pain points for businesses doing Pan-Caribbean payments. What it looks like today. Presentation and discussion of the first wireframes, and then the next steps going forward. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it was a very in-depth meeting. At a certain point, they actually just asked you straight up, like, think of any way you can to just kill this project. So they're looking for all of these attack vectors. They're looking for any gaps that they may have missed. And I gotta say, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the direction that they're heading. Now, naturally, obviously, I'm still against any kind of centralization to that degree. I'm still, team Bitcoin, right? But what I like about this is it's a very realistic approach to onboarding more Caribbean people into the digital space, because a lot of the future, almost the majority, not even almost the majority of the future, especially as far as businesses, economics, education, everything that we're using to develop ourselves, our countries, all of these things are going to be digitized. Assets are going to be digitized. Identities are going to be digitized. Registrations, licenses, all of these different things that we've become accustomed to actually have intangibly in front of us are all going to be digitized. So if the future is moving towards this and it's moving quickly, we need to start onboarding as many people and getting more people adjusted and equipped to be ready for this digital future. So I can be idealistic and I can hold out and say, no, I don't want to touch nothing unless it's Bitcoin. I want all of these countries to adapt Bitcoin as that legal tender. I want them to use and utilize Bitcoin the way it was intended to be used. That's being idealistic. But being realistic, living in the real world, looking at the circumstances that we live in, the people that are in charge, and just the way the world works, that's not likely to happen right up and now. Like, mind you have it's still the Wild West. You got some shooters out here. You got some cowboys. You got El Salvador. You got the Central African Republic. So you have some cowboys out here who willing to just kick down the door and shoot up the club. Like, they don't care. Well, they do care, but they're confident enough to take that leap, to take that lunge into just the darkness, because there's no one else forging the path. They're the front runners. So it's hard to expect, especially many other smaller or developing countries, to take that kind of plunge or to take that step into the unknown. That's a hard sell, being realistic. But an easier sell would be something along the lines of a unified currency. So taking it's like a copy and paste of the EU setup and then modernizing it. Because it's the same way the EU have the different countries collaborating, the Caribbean would have different countries collaborating. Then instead of having a paper euro, instead of having a paper unified dollar, they'd have a digitized unified dollar. So now communication, trade, education, everything amongst these different islands, amongst these different nations is significantly easier, significantly faster, significantly cheaper. So now you have more of a collective. You have more of an opportunity for collective growth, more of a chance for collective development, so that everyone starts to get caught up. Everyone starts to get up to speed. They're more familiar with using mobile apps. They're more familiar with using these digital payments and electronic transmission of payments across borders, across the world even. Because who knows, that could very well be their segue into more stuff, into some of the deeper things, into Bitcoin, into other crypto projects. So for me, as much as I don't like centralization, as much as I prefer to just jump straight to what I see as the solution, I think this is a step in the right direction. Realistically assessing it, I think it's a great step in the right direction. So real quick before we wrap up, I wanted to take a look at the Carob coin website as well as the white paper for the CaribDollar. So we're just gonna gloss over it. I'm not gonna go too in depth. So for the website here, love the design right out the gate, very sleek. A quasi-monetary union for the Caribbean, very to the point. When you click to download the white paper, you just put in a name, email address, and they shoot it to your inbox. Fast track towards CARICOM, Single Market and Economy, CSME. Introduction of the CaribDollar, our strategic goals for the Caribbean, connect the Caribbean and strengthen economic ties between national economies, create a quasi-monetary union as a fast track towards a Caribbean single market and economy by introducing a jointly managed means of payment. What we want to achieve: lower costs and enhanced speed of cross-border financial transactions. Okay. Provide a regional means of exchange with high liquidity. Reduce the necessity of hard currency exchange. Build and develop a joint monetary policy for a common means of payment for the one Caribbean. How do we achieve these goals? By introducing CaribDollar, a stablecoin, as means for seamless, fast, and cheap financial transactions, by providing business-related services and infrastructure to use CaribDollar on a daily basis, by introducing a consent-based multi-stakeholder governance of CaribDollar as a public-private partnership in close relation with central banks and regulators. Okay, that part's pretty important, and I feel like they're gonna dig deeper into that in the white paper itself. So I'll just keep going and I'll make note of that for later. So what exactly is it? Digital means of exchange, like we pretty much went over all of this already. Backing CaribDollar with a basket of Caribbean assets, applying stabilization algorithms for the exchange rate. There it is. I knew it had to be some kind of algorithm. If those assets themselves fluctuate, which they probably will, because nothing is fixed, everything is just imaginary numbers, then it has to be some kind of system in the background balancing it to maintain its relative stability. Introducing a trustworthy governance structure of Caribbean stakeholders. Okay. So the stakeholders themselves, in essence, kind of dictate how this works, it seems. And I'm assuming the stakeholders would be members of CARICOM and or any other governing or private bodies or entities Privacy and safety for users are ensured by applying blockchain technology. Not distributed ledger, blockchain. I tell you, it's basically a synonym. Whenever you see them, they mean blockchain. Applying blockchain technology and appropriate legal measures. Who we are. Carob Coin is a joint venture of founders and CEOs of multiple blockchain and societal change related institutions. That's facts. Development of the basics of world's first CBDC in Barbados. Also facts. Social innovation at the national level in Germany with over 20,000 stakeholders and over 1 billion media contacts. Okay. Multi-stakeholder governance of a government-funded 40 million euro, I think that's euro, public program. That's kind of wild. So it's some big boys. It's some big boys behind us. Quick glance at the white paper here. Fostering economic development and enhancing financial inclusion in the Caribbean. Initially written October 18th, 2021, so less than a year old. Alright, so we have the executive summary, the vision, a quasi-monetary union as fast track towards the CSME mission, introducing all Caribbean stablecoin, all Caribbean. So I think this extends beyond, or they're aiming to extend beyond CARICOM, because the Caribbean is more than the 20 member nations of CARICOM. Well, members and associates, but the 20 nations involved in CARICOM does not make up the entire Caribbean. So them stating this is an all Caribbean stablecoin tells me that they have aspirations to extend further than just CARICOM. Or maybe CARICOM itself wants to extend, who knows, and empower its multi-stakeholder governance. The problem, a disconnected Caribbean. Our proposal, build monetary bridges using innovative technology and economic structures. Okay, how it works, secure value through 4 stability mechanisms. 4 stability mechanisms, backed by a basket of digitized financial assets, algorithmic stabilization on top of the collateral to maintain the peg to the US dollar or any other reference value chosen by CaribDollar governance. And the governance is determined by the stakeholders, whoever the stakeholders would be. Trust in the governance design. No single entity may ever decide to just print new CaribDollar at its pleasure. Committees of Caribbean stakeholders, including governments, central banks, and other economic and societal actors, will govern the CaribDollar using fixed and transparent digitized rules. Okay. How will the CaribDollar be introduced? 4 steps of the systemic change. 1. Operate an MVP which tests cross-border trade between participating companies in 3 Caribbean countries, Barbados, Jamaica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Okay, so St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the last one. That's the 3rd one that they're looking at. But officially so far, we have definitive confirmation from Barbados and Jamaica. Expand company-based cross-border trade across the whole Caribbean and test usage of the CaribDollar with selected Caribbean individuals. Okay. Facilitate mass adoption of CaribDollar across Caribbean individuals and businesses, creating a quasi-monetary union. Incentivize use of CaribDollar by distributing welcome money. So they giving out bonuses. Just like Jamdex, we get sounding some free money could be handing out. Enable extraterritorial transactions and remittances using CaribDollar and expand to new regions. Yup. There's definite plans for expansion. And just the contents. So we have the executive summary. Contents: a fast track towards CSME, enhancing financial inclusion, stablecoin design, multi-stakeholder governance, implementation, ideas for business models, acknowledgements, and bibliography. So we are going to wrap up for today. I'm definitely going to dive into this further, and then in next week's episode, in the part 2, we're really going to dig into this white paper and see exactly what this is about. I'm going to even try to reach out to Dr. Jan Schroeder himself, see if I could possibly get an interview with him to speak more about this. All in all, like I said, I like the idea. It's not the ultimate solution I was looking for, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. It's a pretty big step, to be honest, in the right direction in general, and that's my opinion. But what do you think about it from what you've seen so far? We read 2 stories. We went over what CARICOM, CSME, and their goals are and how this kind of aligns directly with that. And we took a quick look at their website and glanced at the white paper. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the deployment or the idea of the CaribDollar? Let me know down in the comments. I'll be down there to reply. I'm not the best with it, so you cut me some slack. But if you haven't already, make sure on your way out you hit that like, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of the notifications from any of the other channels on this network. I was just counting it up the other day, and I think we have like 20 different shows. Like I'm pretty sure we have almost 20 different shows on this network, all covering different assets of the Bitcoin and crypto space. So definitely make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the best news, best resources, and best information you could find in this space. Trust me on that. And like I said earlier, I'll be responding to any of your comments, quotes, concerns, questions, all of that stuff down in the comments. But I am not the best with it, I'll be honest. Sometimes I slack off. Sometimes I don't really be in the comments that much. So if you want to yell at me directly, you could find me right here. My Linktree has all of my content, all of my socials, everything that you need to know to find me or to know about me. You could find in that Linktree. I got that link down below in the description for you, as well as the link to the CaribDollar website, these 2 articles that I read, and you could get the white paper from there. So you can check it out for yourself. Get ready for next week's episode. So thank you again for coming through. We could cut it right here. I can see you all in the part 2 next week. We can link.